Why isn't Mark Jackson, the guy that laid the foundation for the Golden State Warriors, why doesn't he get a call when these head coaching vacancies open up? Why isn't Mark Jackson currently employed as an NBA head coach?
Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson's a name that, depending on who you ask, you're going to get a different response. Many people still ask to this day why Mark Jackson is not in the NBA. And that question is a more complicated one than I think people really realize. And I think to get into this story, we're going to have to go all the way from the beginning into where we are now and why Mark Jackson is not currently an NBA head coach. We're going to talk about it all and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. And on today's episode, we're getting something a little different, right? This is kind of more of a narrative thing you're talking about. Like, when you look around the NBA, head coaches, there are some head coaches that just constantly get recycled, right? Year after year, right? Like they'll be in multiple jobs. Coach Budenholzer is one of those. Doc Rivers is another one. And these are guys that are talented coaches, make no mistake about it. But no matter how bad things may end at one job, they always find themselves having another job. But then there's the flip side of that. Coaches that have some success, but for some reason never really get back into the NBA or get back into having another job in the NBA. And right now, we're going to talk about one of those guys, and that's Mark Jackson.
Whatever happened to Mark? Because he put that team together, it seems like, and then nobody ever gave him a chance again, which seems weird.
We were just talking about that this morning, and like we were huge fans of Mark, the players. He was the ultimate players coach.
That was, I mean, he pretty much put that team together. Like that's when we first started hearing about the Warriors, and then it was like he got let go, and then no other team gave him a shot.
And I talk about it in the book as far as he was like one of my favorite coaches of all time. It was like come in, compete, play hard, and then he was going to put you in the best position to get the most money.
And I think you got to go all the way back to the beginning of this story, right? On June 6, 2011, Mark Jackson was hired as the head coach of the Golden State Warriors, despite never being a head coach before.
Breaking news, this just into SportsCenter. Mama, there goes that man. Golden State has found its man. The Warriors announcing tonight Mark Jackson will take over as head coach by the Bay. It's Jackson's first head coaching gig in the NBA.
And he was the first head coach that was hired by a new ownership group in Joe Lacob and Peter Guber. And he was inheriting a team that at that point had won 36 games the year prior. Now, Mark Jackson made the promise at that point in time that he was going to turn around the Warriors and get them to be a playoff team. And in his first year, that team struggled. They only won 23 games, going to 23-43 in a shortened year. But that was also a season where Steph Curry only played 26 games. And so while the team was adjusting to a new system and things like that, in the 2011-12 season, they didn't have success. But then that success came in the 2012 and 13 season, where the Golden State Warriors went from that 23-win team to more than double their wins to 47 wins, a 47-35 record, and they were the number 6 seed in the Western Conference playoffs that year. It was the first time that the Golden State Warriors had made the playoffs since the 2006-7 seasons, and the Warriors defeated the Denver Nuggets 4-2 in the first round and lost to the San Antonio Spurs in the semifinals 4-2. Mark Jackson at that point in time was looked at as somebody who was a motivator. You can feel his intensity in every interview that he had. So many times he was motivating his team in the half court. And so many players talk about him so positively, right? Even to this day, Draymond Green and Steph Curry, they were recently on a podcast in which they talked about the impact that Mark Jackson had on the players that they ended up becoming.
One thing that he was great at is he breathed confidence in the guys. Like he's just spewing confidence in the guys. And I think that was huge in our growth and who we eventually became. Is the confidence that he gave guys. I know people, like I was actually watching earlier today the clip when he said, I got the best shooting backcourt in the history of basketball.
He sounded crazy.
He sounded crazy.
Yeah.
I thought he was crazy and out of his mind. Everybody in the world thought he was crazy and out of his mind. But he said, I got the best shooting backcourt in basketball history. What did Coach Jackson do for you in your career and helping you understand, like, no, you are one of them dudes? What was that for you? Because I know for me, like, he breathed confidence into me and made me felt like I belonged in this league.
Yeah. And what they were able to do in that 2012-13 season was special, right? And you know, when you have your players talk about you in a way that you are who they become, let's look at that season. That season saw the performance of Steph Curry, who played in 78 games after only playing in 26 games the year prior, and averaged almost 23 points, 7 assists, and 4 rebounds. And Klay Thompson, in only his second year in the league, played all 82 games. He scored 16 points per game. And a rookie, Draymond Green, the same rookie that we just played a clip from of him talking about that Mark Jackson was so instrumental in him becoming the player that he ultimately became. He played 79 games, only averaged 13.4 minutes per game in that time. But, you know, he that was Draymond, a player that, you know, was drafted in the second round, that people had a lot of questions about what even his position was going to be at the next level. And he started playing a little bit better, right? And so at that time, after that season, Mark Jackson signed, who originally signed a 4-year deal. He added 2 more years to that contract that puts him under contract to the 2014-15 season. And that's when things started. They got better, but they got worse right afterwards. That next season, the Golden State Warriors improved from that 47 win season, and they won 51 games, going 51-31. It was the first time that team had 50 or more wins since 1993 and 94, and that was in the 2013-14 season. That was a great and a huge leap and accomplishment for that. And while they did reach the playoffs in consecutive seasons for the first time since 1992, they lost in the first round to the Los Angeles Clippers, and that's where things started spiraling.
The Golden State Warriors have fired head coach Mark Jackson. The move comes in the wake of the Warriors' elimination from the basketball playoffs in the first round by the Clippers in 7 games. Crowd Force Dan Kerman reports from Warrior headquarters, where the team's management talked about the decision to let Coach Jackson go.
We appreciate everything that Mark was able to do for this organization over the last 3 years. He put us in a better place than when he arrived, and we compliment him for that.
On May 6, 2014, Mark Jackson was fired as the head coach of the Golden State Warriors. And at that time, the Warriors front office said that the team was better than when Jackson arrived, but felt a different coach was needed to get to winning an NBA championship. And that next season, Steve Kerr and the Golden State Warriors won the team's first NBA title in 40 years. Now that brings us to the next part.
When factoring in everything in its totality in regards to Mark, we felt like, although he'd accomplished quite a bit, we wanted to move in a direction where maybe we were possibly more aligned as an organization entirely. And as far as what we think we can obtain the similar results, but in totality have a candidate that we can move forward with in that direction.
What was next for Mark Jackson at that time? At that time, a head coach for 3 years who was fired with years left on his contract. And in those 3 years, he not only doubled the wins from year 1 to year 2, but he finished it with a 52% win percentage. And when you look at coaches around the league now who get fired with an above 50% win percentage, those coaches usually find another job. Now here, I'm not here to say what's right or what's wrong. I'm not here to pass judgment. I'm not here to say anything, whether he's being blackballed or scapegoated or anything else. We're just here to talk about the facts. How you feel about it, that's how you feel about it. Me, I'm just here to talk about the facts of the situation. So that leads us back to the question in this. Why isn't Mark Jackson still coaching in the NBA? That's the thing that you have to ask yourself, right? Mark Jackson's time with the Golden State Warriors had tons of allegations of the religious aspect of it, right? A player saying that, you know, he wanted church in the locker room. Take that for how you feel. Reported homophobia as well, right? Reportedly, he had ranted on 2 staff members who were openly gay. Take that for whatever you will, right there. But there's a number of things that I think have led Mark Jackson to not being an NBA head coach. One, it is his personality. Mark Jackson has what's been categorized as a difficult personality to work with, right? Not getting along with a lot of people in the Warriors front office and other personnel on the court issues, off the court issues, right? And was reported as having a dysfunctional atmosphere around the team. the disagreements with the front office. Mark Jackson is somebody who's always been very vocal in every aspect of life. His coaching style and the vision that the Warriors front office had with what type of team and culture they wanted to build, it didn't work with Mark Jackson, throwing more questions about him. The team felt like he had taken the team as far as they could, and at the end of the day, a new approach was needed. The church in the locker room thing was a problem as well. And then let's get into something with that as well. Reportedly, Mark Jackson had some insecurity issues in the sense that he did not want his assistants to get too much credit for the team's success, and that could led into personal conflicts within the organization and within the team. Again, this is reported. This is not me saying this. And so all these things have now led to a narrative and a perception around somebody who had success in the NBA, and now they can't get back in.
A team that went 19 years and only made the playoffs 1 year, and then all of a sudden win 50-plus games, get into the playoff, advance to the second round, and then when I'm gone, become a dynasty. Something changed from that 19-year to today.
Right.
And I played a part in it, a small part, but a part in it. And I look forward to having the opportunity, because there are teams in that position.
Right.
So you could, if you wanted, you could say, well, I can't coach a championship team. And I think you're wrong.
Right.
But there's no evidence to show that.
Right.
But you can't tell me that I can't play a part in turning a team that historically made the playoffs one time in 19 years. And we've seen teams that in that position and worse, and some hovering around that situation. I'm comfortable and confident in what I was able to do in playing a small part in changing the culture.
They can't get back in to coaching in the NBA, even with Mark Jackson saying that he would love to get back into the NBA. It just doesn't look like it's going to happen for him. And that's an unfortunate part of all of this, is that when you look at this, when you look at just the raw coaching part, he set a tone, he set a culture that while up and down, he developed players. The vision that you started to see a little bit for Draymond Green there. Now, yes, Steve Kerr came in and took Draymond and turned him into what he eventually turned into. But when you look at how Mark Jackson taught Steph, taught Clay, what it took to win, and instilled that in them, and then Steve Kerr was able to come in and build off of it. All I'm here to say is that there have been coaches that have done less in the NBA and that have found other jobs. So the question here is that, is Mark Jackson out of the NBA due to his own personality, his religious beliefs, the church in the locker room, all that type of stuff? Is he out of the NBA due to the homophobic comments and the things that he's doubled down on and stood on his beliefs about? All those things are a question here. And again, I'm not here to pass judgment or whatever. I don't agree with everything Mark Jackson has said or done. I don't personally. But how much of that should be separated from him doing a job in which he's shown that he's adequate and can be successful in doing, and that is coaching in the NBA? That's a question here. And this question was brought about, many may know that one of my best friends is a Knicks fan. Shout out to JB, who's one of the co-hosts here. And after the firing of Tom Thibodeau, we talked about who could be the next head coach. And he mentioned Mark Jackson as one of his favorites to come in and coach this team. And my response was, I doubt Mark Jackson is ever going to get back into the NBA. And the reasons why are there. So the question that I have, and I'm going to present this to you, is this a case of a coach being blackballed from the NBA? Or did he self-sabotage himself that caused him to not be in the NBA currently and to be out and not a coach? Again, I'm not here to pass judgment. I don't know. I'm not in those locker rooms. I don't get to talk to those people. I have no idea. But what I do know is what we've seen, and that the players that played for him then, that went to go on to win multiple titles, still talk about him positively. Now, there are still some questions in it, but I'm going to go to what one of those players did say. Everybody deserves a second chance. And has Mark Jackson's comments off the court and his actions off the court, have that taken away the opportunity for him to get a second chance to be a better person and to be a better coach?
What I will say is I look forward to the day when I'm coaching again.
Right.
What I will say is it will happen. I truly believe that with everything in me.
Let me know what you guys think on that down below. Thank you guys for tuning in. You guys can follow us at NBA Central Pod. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-2 270-2799. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.
I used to sit where you sit. And after all that work, a coach would take me out and bring in somebody to stop. Somebody to defend. It was disrespect to me. You earned the right to win the game. You earned the right. All right, let's go get it. Let's go get it.